Executive order. Imagine the president wanting to enact a major policy change without waiting for a new law from Congress. This is where the executive order comes in, a formal, signed directive that has the force of law but is aimed inward at the federal government itself. It isn't about creating legislation from thin air, but rather about directing how the massive machinery of government will enforce the laws already on the books. This power has been used for monumental shifts. President Truman famously used one to desegregate the armed forces, while in more recent times, orders have implemented sweeping immigration policies and environmental regulations. Crucially, however, an executive order is not a permanent law. It can be challenged by the courts if it oversteps constitutional bounds, and perhaps most importantly, it can be undone with the stroke of a pen by the next president, making it a powerful but potentially fleeting tool of the office. Commander-in-Chief. As Commander-in-Chief, the President sits at the absolute top of the military chain of command, holding final authority over every branch of the United States Armed Forces. This means every general, admiral, and soldier ultimately answers to them. This power is direct and tangible. They can deploy troops to a global hotspot, authorize a targeted strike, or set the entire strategic course for a military campaign. It was President John F. Kennedy who personally managed the naval blockade during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and President Barack Obama who gave the final order for the raid that targeted Osama bin Laden. But this authority isn't a blank check. While the president can command the military day-to-day, only Congress holds the power to officially declare war and, perhaps more importantly, control the military's budget. This fundamental check ensures that the ultimate decision to commit the nation to a large-scale conflict is a shared one. Nuclear football. Perhaps the most dramatic symbol of presidential power is the nuclear football, a black briefcase that guarantees the president can command a nuclear strike from anywhere on Earth. Officially called the president's emergency satchel, it's carried by a military aide who is always just a few steps away. Instead of a big red button, the briefcase contains secure communication equipment and a book presenting a menu of pre-approved war plans, ranging from a single tactical strike to a full-scale retaliation. To unleash this power, the president would first verify their identity using a special code on a card nicknamed the Biscuit, then transmit their chosen attack orders directly to the Pentagon. This system centralizes the most consequential decision a human can make, ensuring that the authority to command the nation's nuclear arsenal rests with one person at a moment's notice, no matter where they are. Veto power. Think of the veto as the president's ultimate power of rejection. After both houses of Congress labor to pass a bill, it lands on the president's desk. They can sign it into law, or they can refuse, sending it back to Congress with their objections. For instance, imagine Congress passes a bill to drastically change national health care, but the president fundamentally disagrees with the approach. They can wield the veto to stop it cold. This isn't necessarily the end of the road for the bill, however. Congress has one last move: the override. If a supermajority, a full two-thirds of both the House and the Senate, votes in favor of the bill again, it becomes law without the president's signature. This is an intentionally high bar to clear, making the president's veto one of the most significant checks on legislative power and a powerful tool for shaping the nation's laws. State of the Union. The State of the Union address is the president's constitutional duty to report to Congress, but in practice, it is their biggest platform to shape the entire country's political agenda for the year. Think of it as both a national report card and a public to-do list. The president will highlight their administration's successes, like a strong economy or a new trade deal, and then pivot to challenge Congress with their legislative priorities. For example, a president might celebrate a low unemployment rate and then immediately call on lawmakers to pass a bill for clean energy or to lower prescription drug costs. Delivered to a packed chamber of senators, representatives, and Supreme Court justices, and broadcast live to millions, the speech is a direct appeal for public support, designed to pressure lawmakers into acting on the president's vision and demonstrating a powerful use of the office's influence. Foreign policy. As the nation's chief diplomat, the president steers America's entire relationship with the rest of the world. This power of foreign policy dictates how the United States interacts with allies and adversaries alike, shaping global events through a vast toolkit of diplomacy, negotiation, and pressure. This can look like sitting down with other world leaders to forge a climate agreement, or hammering out a complex trade deal that impacts the cars we drive and the food we eat. It can also mean imposing tough economic sanctions to punish a hostile nation, or picking up the phone in the middle of the night to de-escalate a potential military crisis. From appointing ambassadors who act as personal representatives abroad to brokering a historic peace accord between two warring countries, the president is the single decisive voice on the world stage, making choices that define America's role on the planet and directly affect its security and prosperity. Air Force One. The name Air Force One isn't a specific plane, but rather the military call sign for any Air Force aircraft carrying the President of the United States. While most people picture one of two heavily modified Boeing 747s, its true power is its function as a mobile White House and a flying command center. Inside, it's equipped with a full office, a conference room, and advanced, secure communications that allow the president to manage a crisis or address the nation from 40,000 feet. This was demonstrated on September 11, 2001, when the jet became a protected bunker in the sky for President George W. Bush. With the ability to be refueled in midair for virtually unlimited range and hardened to withstand the electromagnetic pulse of a nuclear detonation, the aircraft is a self-sufficient symbol of American power, ensuring the presidency can operate from anywhere in the world, at any time, under any circumstance. SCOTUS nominee. A president wields the profound power to shape the future of American law by nominating justices to the Supreme Court. When a vacancy arises on the 9-member court, typically through retirement or death, the president selects a nominee. That choice, however, is not final. The nominee must then face a rigorous confirmation process and win a majority vote in the Senate. This is a power with incredible long-term consequences because justices serve for life, meaning a single appointment can influence legal decisions for a generation, long after the president who chose them has left office. Consider how the appointments of justices like Neil Gorsuch or Ketanji Brown Jackson can shift the court's ideological direction, directly impacting landmark rulings on everything from healthcare to civil rights. Because of this lasting impact, the power to appoint a Supreme Court justice is one of the most significant and closely watched responsibilities of any presidency. Presidential pardon. The presidential pardon is one of the most absolute and debated powers a commander-in-chief wields. Rooted in the Constitution, it grants the president the unique ability to offer a full governmental forgiveness for a federal crime, effectively wiping the conviction clean and restoring all civil rights to the individual. This is more sweeping than a commutation, which only shortens a sentence but leaves the guilty verdict in place. The most famous example is President Gerald Ford's pardon of Richard Nixon for any crimes committed during the Watergate scandal, an act of clemency granted before Nixon was even charged. While often associated with the light-hearted annual turkey pardon, its real-world impact is profound, though it does have limits. A president cannot pardon state-level crimes, nor can they use the power to stop their own impeachment.